I'm Blake Cannell with Contrast Security, and the next few minutes we want to talk a little bit about AWS Lambda and securing your Lambda-based applications. So just real quick, show of hands, how many people have got Lambda deployed? Just about everyone in here, thankfully. Excellent. So Contrast Security, a quick hit on us. We are an application security testing tool provider, well known in web applications or securing your APIs, your traditionally developed applications. About a year and a half or so ago, we had a lot of requests from our customers and partners who are looking for a solution to their serverless environments, specifically AWS Lambda. So we have had this tool for about a year or so, pretty new. People are doing this style of application development. So what's the real issue here? Well, the first big issue is that even our own tools, the existing tools that were out there, just aren't designed and developed and built for this style of application development, right? These are tools that are designed, they predate AWS Lambda, and therefore they're just not well suited for some of the specific nuances of Lambda-based applications. So specifically, if you look at sort of traditional tools in this space, they tend to be expert-based, a lot of high noise in these tools, a lot of false positives, a lot of manual dependencies, the coverage isn't great. People have moved to cloud native because they want to write more quickly, get code out more quickly, right? Get code to market faster, release applications quickly, do less work and get more advantage with these hyperscale platforms like AWS. So we need a security tool that really maps to that environment. So this ability to make it easy to use, get immediate results, low noise, so high accuracy, autonomous, continuous, and very high coverage. So quite a bit different in the cloud native world from where we are in the traditional tool environment. So obviously serverless is taking off. I probably don't need to tell anyone in this room, but we look at some of the different stats that are out there from either analyst firms or other partners here at this environment or this event. If you look at Gartner, 20% of development for fast functions as a service versus 5% just 2 years ago. The number of functions that people are using has just exploded over these last couple of years. 209% increase in the number of invocations of serverless Lambda functions over the last 12 months. The data is just staggering. We talked to customers that started out small with 10 or 100 Lambda functions. We actually have some customers that have moved into the hundreds of thousands to literally millions of Lambda functions that they're using. They've gone all in on writing serverless code. And right now, they don't have a great way to secure that code in terms of finding vulnerabilities in that code. So what's different about serverless applications? Why can't I just use my existing tools? Well, of course, the biggie is that every function is its own little island, if you will, with its own permission setting. And those permissions tend to be set pretty generously, as it were. So those permissions are set to be pretty wide open. The ability to manage those permissions, if you only have a few functions, you can do that manually. You can go in and tune those permission settings. And again, these permissions are how the different functions speak to each other and how they actually interact with other components within your application. But it's really hard to do this in bulk, and it's something that really must be done, right? You want to make sure that you're not just using a generic set of permissions for your AWS Lambda functions. You want them tuned and optimized for your specific application. And that's kind of a key point here, because we really are, we'll show you here in a minute, what we're doing at Contrast is looking at your specific application and optimizing the security for your application in terms of how it's supposed to execute and run. What we're not doing is just taking a generic set of permission settings and suggesting that you sort of map your application to this generic set of permissions. The other thing we want to have, of course, so the permissions issue is a biggie, and a tool that is sort of purpose-built for this environment. So we want to identify those overly permissive functions. We want to attack the full or scan the full attack surface of your application. We want to look for code vulnerabilities. We want to look at the data flow. We want to look at all of this information in its entirety, and then monitor this on a continuous basis. So we want continuous autonomous monitoring of your application. So as developers make changes, add new functions, we want to be able to scan those new functions, find permissions issues, find CVEs, find open source issues in that code as they develop. So again, you want continuous autonomous monitoring. So that's where we come in with Contrast serverless application security. So there's really three things that we're looking for in our offering. The first, of course, is to find just standard CVE vulnerabilities in your application. So those are things that are in custom code, command injections, cross-site scripting, all those things that we know from the web world, the web application world, the traditional web application world. We want to look for those things and find those challenges there. We also want to look for things in open source components. So in addition to permissions and CVEs, we also include in this offering an SCA tool, so an SCA engine that'll look at your open source components and make sure that those don't have vulnerabilities in it, because a lot of those components are tied in with your serverless application. So those are two things. And then the third thing, of course, is we want to look for those overly permissive settings. So it's really those three prongs in the stool that we're looking for in our serverless security offering. The first two we know pretty well, right? We're all familiar with looking for CVEs. We have tools that do that. We may have SCA tools. We have tools that do that today for our applications. We don't have the overly permissive technology in most of our products today that you may have already deployed. And bringing all three of these together in a single offering is something that you probably don't have either. So that's what we're doing in Contrast serverless application security. When we connect to your account, your AWS account, what we're doing is embedding a Lambda function into your account. We dynamically scan that account, and we're able to generate this graph view of your account, of your application specifically. And this view alone, by the way, this is something that we've been talking to our prospects and customers about. A lot of our application security teams love just this aspect of the application itself, the ability to get a visual of all the different components that make up my application. For a lot of AppSec teams where their developers have moved to serverless and have moved to Lambda, it's really hard to get your head around what is the application. It's no longer just an exe file. It's no longer just a WAR file, a jar file, an EAR file. It's microservices that come together, are additive. You get more and more Lambda functions being added to your application. It keeps changing. It's very amorphous. So getting a graph view is actually highly compelling. So you get this complete visual view of the application, all the functions, what the functions are actually connecting to, like what is triggering these functions, S3 buckets, DynamoDB, etc. So what are all those connections? You get that laid out in a visual form. To connect to your application is very easy. It's simple, one-click onboarding, or what we call three-click onboarding. You just connect to your Amazon account into our account. Very easy, low touch. You get the initial scan of your application, all the different components that make up that application. And then from there, we do dynamic simulations. We dynamically attack your application. We return findings of that dynamic simulation and present that to you in this cloud SaaS environment. We also do static scanning of your application on an ongoing basis. So you're getting this dynamic attack vector into your application. You're getting back the information that we find, the vulnerabilities, the permissions, the open source components. And all of this, of course, is our application itself is built in Lambda. So this testing tool is built in Lambda, runs in the cloud, and supports obviously your applications running in the cloud. So the first thing we're doing is we're connecting to your application. We're doing the discovery, and that's that graph view that you see. So we'll look at all the different resources, the relationships between them, the different policy settings, all the different components. Then we analyze all that code and we find weaknesses. We're uncovering the different flows of how the application works. So we look at the permission settings that you have in your application versus how the actual application works. We compare those two, and that's where we're able to provide suggested remediation. So it's really this third piece. This is the sort of the gold aspect of this application of our tool. It's this ability to not only uncover vulnerabilities, but to actually provide the suggested remediation. So we'll look at your specific application, your specific code, what those settings are, and then we'll deliver in code form suggested remediation. So we don't make the changes ourselves. We don't actually change your code or modify it. We don't move your code anywhere. But because we're dynamically attacking and simulating attacks on your code, we know how the code works, how it's supposed to work. We can compare that to what the settings are, and we can actually provide very highly accurate results in terms of remediation. So for developers, this is great. We can send this off to your development teams in a Jira ticket. You can copy and paste it and just send it to them in another mechanism. We'll integrate into your CI/CD pipeline going forward. So from a developer perspective, for example, today would just get a Jira ticket. They have a vulnerability. Here's the suggested remediation. Here's exactly where that vulnerability is in your code. They can make that change, resubmit that change. And of course, we're dynamically testing it as we go. And if everything's fine, then they just move on. So again, the idea is to catch these things really early in the process, right? So as developers are writing code, we want to make sure that they can find these issues before everything gets into production. So it's really pretty easy. It's connect to your Amazon account, scan the account, find all the components. We dynamically run attacks against it and then present you with the findings and suggested remediation. So it's really 3 steps to get going. So far, we've done very well with this offering. It's been in market for about 1.5 years. We're winning some great awards for Contrast Serverless. You can see here we've got a couple of excellence awards that have been going. And that's a quick hit on our product. I'd like to just invite you. We're right next door here in booth 405. We've got a couple of technical experts over there that can actually run through this and show you how this works, connecting to your account. The other thing I'd like to mention is what we've seen is the full offering, that graph visualization, the interface, our serverless SaaS interface. We've also recently, about a month ago, have released a command line interface, free, no charge tool that you can use, for developers can use from the command line. It's called CodeSec, and they can do a simple scan of a single function, get the results, and get the remediation, in a command line form from a command interface. So that's a really compelling aspect for developers to get started with using the CLI. They can kind of take a look at our underlying engine of this offering, see if it's really legit and if it's really working for them. They love the command line interface. Obviously, being free is compelling as well. And then, of course, you can move to a more full-blown offering, our serverless offering, which AppSec teams really enjoy, with the graph. And, of course, some of the things that we haven't shown you here, but we'll show you in the booth, the ability to sort all this information, export it out into CVS form or PDF formats and reporting. So you get all of the attestation reports and all the reporting you need in this offering as well. So with that, that's a quick hit on Contrast Serverless Application Security Testing. I appreciate all your time, and hey, have a great event here at Reinforce. Appreciate it.